be going over usability evaluation of mobile application interfaces and ride-hailing services. So first off, let's go over what we're going to talk about. First, we're going to define some criteria so we can understand what we're actually looking at. Then we're going to go over some usability testing where we evaluate the ease of use and user satisfaction with these applications. After that, we'll analyze the feedback we get from conducting surveys with users. And finally, we're going to evaluate our results and discuss some of the best practices. So let's begin first with criteria definition, and this is stuff that you need to know before we begin. So the following tasks are what we will use to evaluate the usability of mobile application interfaces with ride-hailing services. For each application that we look, we're going to go over 5 tasks, which include setting the destination, modifying personal information, setting payment methods, finding past ride records, and also adjusting setting parameters. These will be our benchmark tasks that every application will be judged on. And what applications are we going to analyze? We're going to analyze Uber, which is an international company that provides ride-hailing services, courier services, food delivery, and freight transport. Additionally, we're going to go over Lyft, which is another similar company offering ride-hailing for vehicles and also motorized scooters, bicycles, and rental cars, as well as food delivery. And Lyft is primarily based in the US and Canada. Finally, we're going to also look at Gojek, which is an Indonesian on-demand multi-service platform that also provides ride-sharing and ride-hailing services, and they're based in Jakarta in Indonesia. So now that we know what we're looking at, let's go over the usability of these applications. First off, setting payment methods. How can you do this in each application? In Uber, it's very easy. You open the application, you enter the destination in the search bar that's on your main window. So it's on the first layer. As soon as you open the application, you can see it. Same with Lyft. As soon as you open the application, there's a search for destinations tab on the main page, which you can just enter your destination at and get going. Again, it's first layer, and Gojek also first layer. They just have a tab bar through which you can search for your destination. So all three are very similar in this aspect. Let's look at task 2. Task 2 is modifying personal info, and here's where we see some variance between the programs. So for Uber, you can just click the account option on the bottom right of the main page, and it takes you to your account where you can modify your personal data. So this is second layer because you obviously go to a new view from the main page. Lyft has a function tab which you open on the main page, and it kind of creates the sidebar with all these different functionalities you can select. So you open your function tab, you select personal data area, then you click view profile and choose edit. Now this is kind of a lot of steps, that's why it's actually fourth layer, because you kind of have to go through all these different views before you can finally modify your personal data. And on Gojek, you click your personal avatar on the main page, and then you click on the pen to begin editing. So it's a few steps less than Lyft, but still more than Uber, and it's third layer because you're going through 2 separate views before you reach your third one. Our third task is setting payment methods. On Uber, you select the wallet icon on the personal account page, and it just opens up and you can choose how you're paying or which method you're using. Again, this is second layer because it just changes your view once and you go straight to it. On Lyft, again, on the main page, you have to open your function symbol, which will bring up that sidebar with all your functionalities. And from there, you can select payment, and that'll take you to the third layer where you can edit your payment, add cash, gift cards, or some other method of paying. Finally, for Gojek, from the main page, you have to go to your profile, and from your profile, you can select payment, and from there, you can edit how you choose to pay and what method you use. This is third layer. And we'll discuss more about how these layers affect usability and what they mean for users later on. So for now, just keep them in mind. Task 4 is finding your past ride records. So for Uber, you click activity icon on the bottom right of the main page, and it just automatically brings up a list of all of your previous rides. On Lyft, you open the function symbol. Like I said, they kind of work everything through that modular sidebar where it takes you to different functionalities. You you select your ride history, and it takes you to the third layer where you can see your past ride records. And on Gojek, from the main page, you can actually just select orders icon and it'll show you your history. So this is like Uber, it's second layer. You just go to one additional view. Finally, task 5 is adjusting setting parameters. And for Uber, you have to click your personal information on the main page and then select a settings icon. So this third layer, because you go through 2 different views before reaching this one where you can adjust your settings. On Lyft, on the main page, you open your function symbol, you select settings, and like everything else, this is a third layer. You go to your settings where you can edit it. On Gojek, you go from the main page, you select your personal profile, and then select manage accounts, and that's where settings will be available for you to edit. This is third layer as well. Now, let's go over the feedback. So we had users of these applications work with them, try them out. These were all new users. And then they gave feedback on what they thought about the application, its design, how intuitive it was, how easy it was to use, things like that. And based on that, I came up with some pros and cons for these. So let's go over them. So Uber's pros and cons. The pros of Uber is that a lot of users said the UI is very clean and well designed. They said the functional classification is precise. So what they meant by that is that if you have some button and you click it, it does exactly what it means. If you click on the settings button, it takes you to settings. There's not a lot of clutter or confusion on how to use the program. Finally, another pro was that it provides options for setting destination settings. That was a big plus for users. And additionally, Uber was very popular with young and middle-aged people. So people who kind of already are tech savvy and used to using different technologies on their phones. Now, the cons of this is that the information of payment settings is not precise. And what they mean by this is that when you're trying to modify your payment settings, it's not very clear. And it kind of goes into another con, which is the display is more than an average phone's range. So with Uber, it kind of gives you too much information to view on a single screen, and you have to kind of scroll through it or go to different pages, and that was a con for users. And some more cons is that it automatically installs food delivery option, and what that does is it just kind of clutters up and takes away from the ride hailing services because it's another feature just built in on there. A suggestion could be that they could separate this food delivery option and just have it as a separate model and a separate thing. Finally, navigating through the pages of Uber is not intuitive, kind of like I said before, just because there's so much information that for users it becomes confusing, like they need to scroll through different pages to find what they're looking for, or they need to open up different views, things like that. Now for Lyft, the pros and cons. The pros is that the page was simple, so a lot of users really value that, the fact that you can just go on, there's not much to grab your attention, just what you need. Additionally, because the page was so simple, a lot of users found that the operation is intuitive, so they kind of just knew what to do to get the results they wanted. And the addition of the functions toolbar, which we mentioned multiple times, where from the main page you open up your sidebar and there's a list of functionalities you can choose from. A lot of people said that was very user-friendly and helpful to them. And finally, they also all enjoyed that the car calling function is on the main page and easy to access. So you can just go in, select it, select your destination and call a cab or a car to pick you up. As for the cons, modifying personal data could be better designed. A lot of users found it difficult to actually change their personal information just because it was buried in the UI. So you have to go through your functions tab to your profile tab, then you have to open your personal avatar and then click edit. So it's kind of a lot of steps, and it could be simple, it could be simpler and made more easy. And this goes into the second issue, which was the entire settings page wasn't intuitive like the rest of the app. While the functions of the app were easy, adjusting your settings was not. At least that's what users told us. Finally, separate text and image areas were not distinguished enough, and this caused confusion. So when people were trying to modify their settings or their personal data, they didn't know where they needed to click to write text or where they needed to click to change their profile picture, something like this. and that's something that needs to be handled by Lyft. Finally, like I said before, you needed to access fourth layer just to adjust your personal data. And that means you have to go through multiple different views, which just makes the whole process less intuitive and less enjoyable for users. Gojek, their pros and cons. One, they had an easy, accessible chat function with the driver. This was built into the main page, and it's different from Uber and Lyft because they didn't have it on their main page. It was a bit more difficult to access it. Additionally, Gojek provides various features for users. They had payment methods that were easy to access and easy to use, and they provided many methods of payment. But Gojek, a lot of users found what was great about them is the variety they offered. But that also kind of was their cons because they provide too much information on the main screen. When you open up the Gojek main screen, there's up to 6 different services. Not all of them are for ride-hailing services, so it's kind of cluttered and difficult to understand for newer users. So for newer users, this is the second con. There's just too much to explore. When you go in, if you're expecting just ride-hailing services, you'll be confused because there's other types of delivery services. There's like online shopping services, and it's all in one place, which can distract from the main functionality. Finally, not enough language options. This was actually a con for all 3 of them, where these programs didn't offer their settings and their usability in different languages. So for foreigners or international people, it's just less usable. And finally, for Gojek, their design felt cluttered and messy. It just, a lot of users said that they were trying to put too much onto a single page, which could definitely take away from the overall experience. So now that we know their pros and cons, let's take a look and discuss what we can learn from this. So some key takeaways for optimizing ride-hailing services include 1, adding signifiers. You should have some type of icon or images to help users understand what's being displayed to them. So for example, if you want to have them adjust their payment method, add like a dollar icon or a money icon, something so they can see it and immediately associate that with, oh, okay, if I click this, it'll go to payment. Additionally, you should separate your features. Your different functionalities should be in separate areas, and you shouldn't clutter everything into a single space. For this, we can look at Lyft. They did a very good job of this. When we were going over the tasks they used, we saw Lyft had a lot of their tasks in the 3rd or 4th layer, but still it was done in a very user-friendly way where they had the modular sidebar that would come out with all the different functionalities, and the user can select exactly what they want to do and be taken to a separate view for it. So even though it kind of adds more steps, it does help in the fact that it separates all your functionalities, so no one page is too confusing. And what you really should have on just your main page, this is our 4th tip, is that your main page should only have your main features. So for like an application for ride-hailing services, it should just have your search bar for setting your destination and finding a car. You shouldn't have much more than that on there because you want your user to open the application and immediately do what they came there to do. If they don't find it quickly, they'll be discouraged and they will want to try and use different applications. Finally, and this might be the most important, is to just keep it simple. Less is more. A lot of designers think, oh, I'll add all these cool different features and each page will have a lot of different elements to it. But the truth is, adding over-designed UI and redundant features, that just takes away from users because the most important thing is functionality and ease of use. So you want your user to just open the application, immediately know what to do, and not be overwhelmed by your design. And yeah, the best app should just be easily learned and easily used. Those are our tips. Thank you for listening, and I hope you